Many people want to know, does an LLC protect you from a lawsuit? Well, this is important information that you need to know about because we live in a very litigious society where people are suing other people for everything. You got to protect yourself. In this video, you'll understand the need for limited liability protection. You'll find out how a limited liability company, or LLC, can protect you. You'll see how the LLC is treated in the event of a lawsuit. I'll show you an essential strategy for protecting your assets. You'll know what to avoid in order to ensure that your assets are properly protected. Okay, let's begin with the concept of limited liability protection. Now, I know I break this down a lot of times for people where they say, okay, I get it, can we go into the next point? But you know what? I look at it this way. I heard recently that John Wooden, the legendary coach of the UCLA Bruins, who won so many championships during his tenure there, he used to start every season by explaining to his players how to put on their socks. He said, we've got to make sure we put on our socks in a way that there are no bunched up creases or anything so that we don't develop blisters. That sounds pretty much common sense, but he said, I'm going through this information, you listen to me to get the results that I get. And he said, now I'm going to show you how to lace up our shoes. We want to make sure that we lace them up in a way that's going to provide us with security for our feet. And then we're going to lace up the shoes and we're going to tie them in that knot, and then we're going to double knot it to make sure that it doesn't come undone. When timing is crucial out there on the basketball court, we don't want to have to worry about our feet or worry about our shoes coming untied or anything like that. You see, that was the very first thing that he taught people when he was saying, hey, if you want to be on a championship team, you need to learn championship strategies. Sure wasn't the strategies they thought they were going to be learning. They thought they'd be learning, okay, let's talk about defense, let's talk about offense. He said, hey, first things first. So in this video, I want to share with you first things first, and that is limited liability protection. What is it? How do we get it? First of all, whenever you are starting a business, whenever you are involved in any sort of activity, you've got to recognize that we live in a very litigious society. You know, studies have shown there's a new lawsuit filed on average every 30 seconds in this country. Think about that. It's a lot of people suing a lot of other people. They say 1 out of every 4 people will be sued each and every year. So when you think about that, that's a lot of people being sued. And especially when we factor in that there are plenty of people that have no money, so there's no point in suing them. So the people that do have money, hopefully that's you, you need even greater protection because chances are it's not 1 out of every 4, it's a lot more likely that you're going to be sued. Well, I know that may not sound like good news, but the good news is we're talking about how to protect you and to limit your liability. And then here's another thing that I heard. You know, I heard that of all lawsuits filed in the entire world, 94% are filed right here in the United States. Think about it. We are the world's leaders. I don't know about you, but not something I want to be known as the world leader in. Well, this is where we are, so we've got to adapt to our environment. We've got to make sure that we have protection in place to protect against this out-of-control litigation. Well, we do that through the concept of limited liability protection. Now, the first thing we need to understand is what's at risk in a lawsuit? Well, I'm going to give you my attorney answer to that, which is the answer to every legal question. It depends. It depends on how you're structured. It depends on what assets you've left out there to be taken. Well, the concept of limited liability protection, first of all, let's talk about limited liability. People mistakenly think that their liability is limited in a business venture by the amount of their investment in that business venture. For instance, a lot of times people will say, okay, I'm going to save up money or I'm going to set aside money. Once I get to this target amount, let's just say $100,000 for simplicity's sake. I'm going to set aside, once I have $100,000, I'm going to begin my business venture, and I know that will be set aside, so now I don't have to worry about any other risks. If I lose $100,000, I'm not happy about it, but at least I have limitations, or so you thought. See, the reality is, you may say, I'm going to start this business venture, I'm willing to risk $100,000, but I don't want to put my personal assets at risk. Well, you thought you were taking good steps. Sometimes, you know, the best laid plans can lead to our devastation. We've got to make sure that we understand that While we think our liability is limited, it's actually not, especially if you are involved in any sort of business that is interacting with other people. You know, I teach a lot of different seminars and different courses, and I speak to a lot of different groups. And one of the things that I always say is I quote Benjamin Franklin, and he says, "In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes." Well, I find it interesting that he groups in taxes with death, because I guess the good news for us is that we only die once. Unfortunately, we pay taxes year after year after year after year, and then when we die, what happens? We pay taxes again. Well, I would take things a step further and say, yeah, those are two certainties in life. I would add a third, and that is conflict. Anytime we're dealing with other people, we have the possibility, if not the probability, of conflict. People get upset. That leads to arguments. Arguments are what lead to lawsuits. How we handle these arguments, how we deal with those, is a very important part of the overall process, and we've got to address that. That can be addressed in our documentation for dispute resolution, for instance. Are we going to have mediation? Are we going to have arbitration? Those are things that we have to factor in. But right now, we take a look at the limited liability. Your liability, because there's a potential lawsuit, they're going to go after you and your personal assets, everything you own. Unless, of course, you do things a little differently. Now, if you have a limited liability company in place, now the company is interacting with the person that may be getting into an argument with you. It has some sort of a grievance that rises to the level that they would then file a lawsuit against you. Well, now your entire business is at risk, but at least the good news is that your personal assets are not at risk, as long as you've done things the right way. Now, I want to tell you something right now that a lot of people may not share with you, because a lot of people will just paint this picture for you that as long as you have an LLC, you're in good shape, you don't ever have to worry about it. Well, to me, I refer to that sometimes as the vaccination theory of asset protection. It's almost as if, you know, I got the polio vaccine, so I don't ever have to worry about polio again. Well, that may be great for protection against polio, but at the same time, that doesn't work when it comes to asset protection. It's not a one and done. It's not set it and forget it. No, you've got to continually monitor this, and you've got to continue to operate your business as an LLC, as a separate business, if you want to get the separate limited liability protection that comes from having a separate entity. If you start commingling funds, if you start treating this as if it's just nothing more than an alter ego of you, they will do what's called piercing your veil. So that limited liability protection veil that you thought you had can be pierced. Now I got to tell you, this right here is a vitally important concept. It's something that you need to know, which is exactly what we cover on this YouTube channel. Information, strategies, tactics, tips, skills that you need to develop, and we continue to come out with these on a regular basis. That's why you need to take the time right now to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be kept abreast of all of the information that we share with you. Even better, whenever we come out with a new video, you'll receive a notification to let you know that we've come out with it, and you'll be the first to gain access to this information. Okay, when we talk about the importance of this information, I want to share with you a strategy that I believe is, one of the most valuable, important strategies that I share with people. Typically, people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to attend events where I speak, where I share this, but guess what? I'm sharing it with you right now through this video. That strategy is what I refer to as isolation and insulation. I'm going to say that again, isolation and insulation. Here's how the strategy works. Basically, we need to isolate assets and activities from other assets and activities. Translation, keep them separate so that we can insulate those assets and activities from our other assets and activities. We're keeping them separate so that we don't suffer from anything that goes against one of them that could then adversely impact all of them. Now, that may be a new concept and you may be having trouble kind of following that right now. Well, let me kind of simplify it and explain it to you in a way that makes sense to me. Chances are this is going to make sense to you as well. You've probably heard this strategy, you just didn't know that you were hearing this strategy because it wasn't called isolation and insulation. No, the strategy was called, don't put all your eggs in one. Ah, you have heard it because you just finished my statement for me, didn't you? You knew that I was going to say, don't put all our eggs in one basket. You see, because if something happens to that basket, what happens to all of our eggs? Well, if we've got all of the eggs in the same basket and that basket breaks, all of our eggs are going to break. But what if we had kind of divided them up? We said, you know what, instead of a dozen eggs in one basket, maybe I had 2 baskets that each had a half dozen eggs. Or maybe I had 4 baskets that each had 3 eggs. Or maybe I had 6 baskets that each had 2 eggs. Now, understanding the process of how we divide that up is an important part of the overall wealth protection and wealth structuring process that we work with clients on a regular basis. So let me touch on that a little bit more. When I say an overall wealth protection structure, an entity structure, as the name implies, we're utilizing legal entities to provide us with the protection that we need. Now, one of the things I share with people on a regular basis is making sure that they understand what it is that we're protecting our assets from. You see, I believe the government and other sources are attempting to place what I call a lid on wealth. Now, that lid is an acronym for the 3 legal pitfalls of lawsuits, income taxes, and death taxes. Well, these are major destroyers of wealth, and they will take you down if you don't have a plan to protect against them, if you don't have a plan to take the lid off. Well, the 3 areas involved in making sure that we take that lid off are asset protection, tax reduction, and estate planning. An overall wealth protection plan, an overall wealth protection structure addresses all 3 of these vitally important areas: asset protection, tax reduction, and estate planning all at the same time. Well, it's something that most people have never really thought about because there are very few people that combine all of these considerations into a well-planned, customized structure for their clients. Because you've got some that are involved in estate planning, some that are asset protection, some that are tax. It's pretty rare to find all 3 at the same time. Well, that is exactly what I covered in the mini course that I recently created called Enlightened Asset Protection. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, great that you created a course. Are you just trying to sell us something? Well, let me give you an added benefit right here. Because you have watched this video, because you stuck with me to the very end, I have a special gift for you. I am providing you with that mini course, Enlightened Asset Protection, absolutely free of any charge whatsoever. All you have to do is click the link below this video to access this incredible information with these powerful strategies that will provide you with the protection that you need. Again, this is your gift from me, free of charge, for watching this video. Enlightened Asset Protection mini course is all yours. Just click the link below to access the powerful strategies contained in this course and see how they can transform your business, your life, and take care of your family to cover your assets. I'm JJ Childers. Thanks so much for watching.